Fantasy Island is a quirky seaside theme park in the United Kingdom. This park is an interesting lineup with two large Vekoma looping coasters, some big flat rides, and a well-themed indoor section. In this review, I will explain everything you need to know about this park. Fantasy Island was built by Blue Anchor Leisure in 1995. The park is located in Ingoldmells, on the east coast of Lincolnshire. This was an opportunistic location. The town itself is a tourist destination, as it features beaches along the North Sea. The park is just a 10-minute walk from the beach, and it's directly next to a big caravan trailer park. The park's signature feature is a large pyramid. This is an indoor area with rides, arcades, and restaurants. The park planned some bold expansions in its first decade that never came to fruition. This included two additional pyramids. One would have been an indoor water park, and the other would have been a hotel. Even crazier, they later tried to convert a former World War II aircraft carrier into a floating theme park. They also tried to build the country's tallest and fastest roller coaster. They proposed a 265-foot or 81-meter tall coaster, but this would not be your ordinary hypercoaster. This would have been a comically oversized Vekoma SLC. Yes, you heard that right. They could not get the planning permission for this ride, so they scaled the project back to a 167-foot or 51-meter tall invert, which is the Odyssey coaster we have today. Flash forward to 2014. The park entered administration and its future was in doubt. Fortunately, it was purchased by the Mellors Group in 2016. This is a 100-plus-year-old entertainment company that most notably provides carnival rides. They have continued to invest in the park, with several recent additions being repurposed funfair rides. Fantasy Island is both an indoor and outdoor section, and they feel radically different. So much so that they feel like two entirely separate parks. The outdoor area feels like a glorified carnival. There is zero shade and minimal theming. Almost all the space goes exclusively to rides, and a lot of those rides look temporary, and that's because a lot of them formerly ran the carnival circuit. On the bright side, many of them have vibrant lighting packages at night, and the look at the temporary rides does match the feel of the adjacent flea market and trailer park. I just prefer the look of more permanent rides. The big exceptions to this section are the Odyssey and Millennium roller coasters. These are custom rides here for the long haul. Millennium is particularly cool because it runs all throughout the park. It adds so much kinetic energy to the midway. One awkward thing about Odyssey is that it takes place above the park's graveyard. Typically you want to hide this area from the sight of guests, but this was the only spot where the park had room. The indoor area is much cooler. This is very atmospheric with some themed areas. The centerpiece is a large mountain that is complete with some projection mapping effects. There also are some smaller areas that branch off of this. I wish this level of detail went into the aesthetics of the outdoor section. This would make the park feel far more cohesive and higher quality top to bottom. One big con in the atmosphere department was the clientele. I am not sure if this is the norm or if I visited on a particularly bad day, but there were a lot of unsupervised and rowdy kids. They were constantly queue jumping and shouting things that simply should not be said in public. People were also throwing their trash on the ground, which is not a good look, and it caused quite a few queues to develop foul stenches by the end of the day. Note how people are covering their nose while queuing for Millennium. If you arrive by car, you will find a parking lot alongside Odyssey. I was worried parking could be tricky, which is a common issue with a lot of seaside parks, but there was plenty of parking available, and I visited on a busy summer Saturday no less. Parking was also shockingly affordable considering the location. It was just £8 per day. You will find signs in the parking lot how to pay this online. Alternatively, You can access this park via public transit. The one bus has a stop directly outside the park. This bus goes to and from Skegness Station, which has train lines connecting you to the UK's largest cities. Like a lot of seaside parks, Fantasy Island is free admission. There are multiple entrances where you can come and go freely. This is particularly important here because of the aforementioned flea market. A lot of people come here just to shop. Then, there are multiple options to experience the attractions. First, you can pay per ride. Attractions cost £4 to £7 each. Second, you can purchase an all-day wristband. The Discovery wristband costs £20 to £32. This grants you access to all attractions. The Adventurer wristband is £15 to £24. This gives you access to all the kiddie and family rides. These rates are really affordable considering the park's location in a tourist town. Quite a few US seaside parks tend to charge double that. Third, you can get an unlimited wristband for consecutive days or an entire week for a discounted rate. This is great for those vacationing in the area since they can pop in and out all throughout their trip. Fourth, there are evening wristbands on Wednesday and Saturday nights during the summer months. These cost just £10. They are a major bargain. They are valid from 8 to 10 p.m. and they give you access to the indoor area. It is worth noting that Millennium's entrance is in the indoor section, meaning it is included with this deal. Typically, the park is open from 10:30 or 11 a.m. until 5 or 6 p.m., but on those aforementioned summer Wednesdays and Saturdays, the park has extended hours. The outdoor rides are open until 8 p.m., then the indoor section stays open until 10 p.m. Crowds were heavy in the afternoon for me, but the park filtered out in the evening, even with that deal. Now let's run through the ride lineup. The park currently has 5 different roller coasters. The best of the bunch is Millennium. This is a classic Vekoma sit-down looper that is shockingly smooth. The inversions have good positive Gs. There are some tamer spots in the layout, but the whole ride is very scenic as it winds its way through the outdoor area. Odyssey is the park's largest coaster. It has the aforementioned supersized Vekoma SLC. This invert holds the record for the most expensive coaster ever built in the UK, even without adjusting for inflation. It cost £28 million back in 2002. For that price, you would think the ride would be quality, but unfortunately, this one is quite rough. While the over-the-shoulder restraints are super cushiony, you will bash your head into them repeatedly in the second half. You'll want to ride this one defensively. I would love if this coaster got vest restraints in the future to mitigate this issue. I love this coaster's first drop, and a few of the inversions offer nice Gs. The second half is rather dull though, even if it were not uncomfortable, as each element feels 10 to 15 feet too large. I have a full review for this coaster in Millennium if you want to learn more. That review also delves into deep about Odyssey's history, which is both problematic and fascinating. The other 3 coasters are much smaller. Rhombus Express is a powered coaster. It is mild, but has a fun location above the log flume. The family roller coaster is a bit of a misnomer. This is actually a junior coaster, more specifically, a wacky worm. It is fine for the kids, and yes, adults can ride this if you want the credit. The final coaster is Jellykins, which is exclusively for kids. This is a colorful little coaster indoors that essentially consists of one helix. The park is currently building a 6th coaster, which will serve as a true family coaster. This is a much needed addition to bridge the gap between the park's large and small coasters. It will be a spinning wild mouse known as Magic Mouse XXL. These rides have some zippy drops at the start, and typically offer solid spinning in the second half. What else does this park have? They have a few water rides. Ride the outdoor ones though at your own risk. Both have murky green, foul-smelling water. That is particularly noteworthy because Wild River Rapids can get you soaked if you have to splash down backwards. The log flume barely gets you wet, so it's much less of an issue there. This flume is a rather short layout, but the drop at the end is fun. The final notable water ride is Mystical Dragon Mountain. This is a dingy slide in the indoor section. Most of the course is in total darkness. While there are no notable drops, there are a few fun turns that'll sway you back and forth. Moving on to the dark rides, this park has quite a few available, all in the indoor section. The best of the bunch is Harrington Flint's Island Adventures. This is a trackless shooting dark ride from ETF. It is a screen-based ride with child-friendly aesthetics, but the vibe works because they go all in on it. There are plenty of targets, and all of them seem to work. And the transitions in between screens have some physical props as a bonus. Seaquarium is a spinning boat ride past cartoony fish doing all sorts of tasks. The characters are not overly complex, but each scene has quite a bit to see. And this ride has a catchy tune playing on repeat that is sure to get stuck in your head. Toucan Tour starts as an ordinary monorail, but it then has a 1 to 1.5 minute dark ride sequence with some nice lighting effects and statues. It sort of reminds me of a cross between Indiana Jones' Adventure and Enchanted Tiki Room in terms of the aesthetic. Guardian is a robot arm synchronized to a film. This ride system is capable of some pretty extreme movements, but is toned way down here. It essentially feels like a flying theater in terms of intensity, where you're battling a dragon. The motion is synchronized nicely, but the film is super dark, so it can be a bit tricky to follow at points. If this ride had better projector and or wilder movements, it'll be a much, much better experience. The final dark ride of sorts is Jungle Adventure. This is a pony trek ride past some shrubbery and animal statues. The visuals elevate what would otherwise be a standard kids ride to something enjoyable for all ages. The flat rides at this park have changed quite a bit through the years, especially with Mellors having so many traveling ones at their disposal. One strong point across the board is that many of them have really long cycles. This is great for those paying per ride, because they definitely get a good bang for their buck. The best example of this was Twister. This is a scrambler that would be enjoyable anyway because it spins quickly, but this one had a whopping 9-minute cycle. I could not believe the operator let the ride run that long. As of this recording, the best flat ride here is Starflyer. This is a 229-foot or 70-meter tall swing ride from Funtime. It offers fantastic views of the park and sea. It also spins fast enough to offer some force. Volcano is another notable flat. This one is an SS space shot blasting you out of a volcanic crater. The launch also caught me off guard because the pneumatic sounds are masked by loud music. The launch was mild, and there was only a little airtime at the top, but the view is amazing. What's most interesting about this ride is that it used to have tilting seats. The hardware is still present, but unfortunately, this has not been used in years. Then there are some smaller spinning rides, including a techno jump. If you've never done one of these, they offer a fun combination of laterals and airtime pops. And there of course are some kiddie rides, spread throughout the indoor and outdoor areas. Then there's also a large arcade available as well. And if you're into shopping, that flea market is quite extensive. Items range from clothes, to food, to collectibles. There's bound to be something to tickle everyone's fancy. Now it is worth noting there are some additional flat rides that are quite literally across the street. This includes a slingshot, a waltzer, and a booster. These are not part of Fantasy Island though, but these are worth experiencing if you like those types of attractions. They also have really nice cycles. So how should you tour Fantasy Island? This is important to consider because the rides at this park do not have the best throughputs. Currently, all their coasters run just one train. Odyssey's throughput is particularly egregious because it's the park's largest coaster. It has just a single 20-person train. This sported a 45 to 60 minute wait all day long with 3/4 of the queue filled. Millennium is a bit better as it is a longer train and a shorter cycle time. A full queue there takes roughly a half hour. It is also worth noting these two coasters typically load front to back, but if you ask nicely, the crews did seem to honor row requests. Some other rides that can build up sizable waits on busy days are the Volcano Drop Tower, Harrington Flint's Island Adventure Shooting Dark Ride, the Toucan Tours Monorail, and the Mystical Dragon Mountain Water Slide. These can all easily hit a half hour. The worst queue by far, regardless of the day, will always be Guardian. This simulator seats just 4 guests per ride. It takes 5 minutes to cycle, so it accommodates a staggeringly low 48 riders per hour maximum. That is pitiful. For reference, this capacity is close to a Sky Coaster and Slingshot, 2 attractions that are typically upcharges due to how few riders they accommodate. Even at night when everything else was essentially a walk-on, Guardian still had a 45-minute wait. And again, that was with just like 30 people ahead of me. And this was just from the stairs at the end of the queue. Midday, the queue was far, far worse, as it extended to the themed indoor portion. I shudder to think how long that would have been. It is an okay ride, but not worth that wait. If you arrive at opening and want to try Guardian, head there immediately. If you arrive later in the day, I would honestly just skip that ride entirely. It is worth maybe a 20-minute wait max, but rarely is it ever that low. I would then hit Mystical Dragon Mountain, Toucan Tours, Harrington Flint, and Millennium next because all those are located in the indoor section as well. Then head outdoors for Odyssey and Volcano before the heaviest crowds arrive. If Guardian is not a priority, I would start instead with Odyssey. Then I would hit Volcano before heading indoors for the other rides. If you want to try a majority of the park's attractions, I think you want to spend most of a day here. If you only care about the coasters or hitting a few things, you probably can get away with a half day here, especially if you arrive at opening to beat the crowds on Odyssey and Millennium. And if you're seeking credits, it is worth knowing that Botton's Pleasure Pier is just 3 miles away. That park has 4 additional coasters, including a Pinfari inverted coaster and a Fabry spinning coaster. One important touring consideration with Fantasy Island is weather. It is fine to visit this park in rain. You have the indoor area, but like most European parks, they will cycle the outdoor stuff in rain anyways. The one potential issue is wind. Since this park is located on the coast, it can get pretty blustery. Odyssey in particular used to be particularly prone to closures, as winds of 25 to 30 miles per hour would easily shut it down. I actually expected the coaster to be closed during my visit because there were gusts of 30 to 35 miles per hour all day long, but much to my surprise, it was actually open. I know they have modified Odyssey through the years, going as far to lower some elements, so maybe this is much less of an issue than it was in the past. The final thing to note is food. There are a handful of stands inside the park, but I ate before and after my visit. There are a lot of restaurants nearby outside the park. Just know if you visit on a day with late hours, that many of those eateries outside the park will be closed by the time the park closes. So, do I recommend Fantasy Island? Yes, I do. This is a fun park. It has a unique attraction lineup with those 2 large Vekoma looping coasters, a handful of dark rides, and some enjoyable flat rides. There are not any elite rides here, but the lineup has a large quantity of solid stuff. And it has a cool atmosphere between its seaside location and then that indoor area. The biggest cons with this park are the low throughputs and potentially rambunctious crowds if my visit was not an anomaly. Still, I would recommend checking this park out. Ingoldmells looks like a fun place for UK natives to vacation. Then those traveling from abroad on a coaster trip to the UK should consider this park after hitting the main Merlin theme parks and Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Those are my thoughts on Fantasy Island, the unique theme park in the UK. What are your thoughts about this park? Have you been there? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.